This is Bloomberg Sound On with Kevin Cirilli on Bloomberg Radio.
My name is Kevin Cirilli. I'm the chief Washington correspondent for Bloomberg Television and for Bloomberg Radio, accompanied by our Bloomberg Policy All-Star panel, contributors Rick Davis as well as Jeannie Sean Zaino. You know, we've been talking about geopolitics at the start of the show, and I want to continue this conversation with our next guest, Jeremy Bash, because he's got a new report out, a nonpartisan report from folks in the intel world who have served in Republican and Democratic administrations. It's a new strategic national security policy from the American Edge Project, and it details in really plain terms about the type of policy framework that the United States ought to have in order to keep itself safe in the digital infrastructure against China. Now, Jeremy Bash is, of course, the former CIA and Pentagon chief of staff during the Obama years. And Jeremy, first of all, thanks so much for the time. And I think back to when I spoke during the campaign with now Secretary of State Tony Blinken, and he really laid it out for us that the world is going to have to be organized, so to speak, digitally between the techno-democracies and the techno-autocracies, China. So your report outlines some frameworks. What are some of your key takeaways?
Well, that's exactly right, Kevin. First, it's great to be with you. What we're calling for in this report is what we call digital power. A lot of people have heard the term the United States uses its hard power, like its military power. Sometimes we use our soft power, our influence, our values, our diplomacy. And sometimes we use smart power. And now we're calling for digital power, which is basically, Kevin, that we want the United States to play a huge global leadership role in investing in and protecting U.S. tech. It's a big strategic advantage for the United States. China, as you said, is on the move. We are in a huge competition with them. It's an adversarial competition. They're trying to dominate the Internet. They want to dominate the digital infrastructure, and they ultimately want to dominate content. And so what we're calling for is a policy framework coming out of Washington that would, advance an open Internet, that would defend our cybersecurity and protect innovation. And that's really critical, we think, for national security.
You know, I was really struck by this one particular point. We've been talking a lot this week, Jeremy, about semiconductors and shortages and whatnot. And in the report, it says, while the U.S. maintains an advantage in emerging technologies such as artificial intelligence and semiconductors, it has lost what was once a comfortable lead to China, with many experts thinking China is only a few years behind in these technologies. You go on to cite some concerns about 5G deployment and even the future beyond 5G. So what should the United States be doing to plan for the future to keep that American edge?
Well, one of the key things that we got to do is globally, we've got to convince countries in Europe, but even across the developing world as well, to go with U.S. tech and not to succumb to kind of the quick, better, seemingly better deal that China's offering. It's not a better deal. It's actually a less secure deal, and that pertains to 5G, but it also pertains to the U.S. playing a global leadership role in setting some of the standards in these international standard-setting bodies. I think, second, we've got to do a lot better job at investing in data security and cybersecurity. The SolarWinds hack obviously pointed up to vulnerabilities in our software supply chain. And then we've got to keep our techno-democracies, as you referenced earlier, together. And we've got to have a unified bloc to pursue these policies vis-a-vis China, because China's trying to recruit other countries to their camp as well.
Jeremy, this is Rick Davis. Thanks for being on with us
Rick.
today. And really love the report that you authored with one of my favorite people, Fran Townsend. So shout out to her.
Awesome.
She's a great partner and a board member for McCain Institute. One of the things you point out in this report is how important it is to advance democracy through an open internet, right? I mean, everybody in the United States, I would say almost to an individual, would think, of course the internet's open. It's what we have every day. But maybe you could elaborate a little bit, because I don't think people really understand that countries like India and others are closing down their internet. The government is now controlling that internet, that decides what goes on it and who gets access to it.
That's right, Rick, and it's a great point. And you're right, Fran Townsend and one of her co-authors, Admiral Jim Stavridis, who was the Supreme Allied Commander of Europe, our NATO commander, 4-star Navy admiral, they on a bipartisan basis co-authored this report, in part because I think they're worried about American values being, overtaken or undermined, I should say, by China and other countries. We enjoy the benefit of an open internet. We can put any idea out there. China, of course, has what's called the Great Firewall. They don't let people post views or ideas on the internet from their country. And as they dominate other countries, not just in the Asia-Pacific region, but frankly around the world, they're going to limit the ability for free speech, for value, for just talking about issues. And that's a big strength of the internet. And there's another regime. It's called the Splinternet. And when you start getting these requirements by India and others to localize all of their data, in India or other places, it can really fracture the internet. And I think that can undermine the values that we're trying to promote.
Jeremy, it's Jeannie Zaino, and I just want to echo what Kevin and Rick said. I think this is such an important project that you put forward, this report. And on the issue of tech supremacy and China, is it game over if China reaches quantum supremacy, which they seem to have? At least that's what we're hearing. And one of the things you hear attached to that is everything else pales by comparison. What's your view of that?
Yeah, quantum is a supercomputing technology that would potentially allow them to break down our defenses. And I think the reality is that we have to invest a lot more in our own quantum capabilities. And I've actually been talking to some folks in the commercial sector recently who are investing in quantum-proof cybersecurity. And of course, that will be critical, not just because we all rely on our iPhones and our Android devices and our computers every day, but because as all of our cars and frankly everything becomes part of the Internet of Things, we're going to need to make sure all of those devices are secure. And if the United States is going to have a global technological leadership, it's going to have to be able to compete on the quantum playing field and stay one step ahead, no doubt. It's a great point, Jeannie.
Jeremy, it was literally right about a year ago. I took a break from covering the campaign trail, and I went on an embed trip with now former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, and we went to different countries, Jamaica, Colombia, one of them. And when I was on the ground there, I went to the local shopping mall to get a bite to eat, get some street food. I'm always hungry. And I saw Huawei signs. Huawei stores, folks, like you would see if you go to see an Apple store. And yep. I had never seen that before in my life. And I thought, wait a minute, this isn't in Asia. This is right here. I mean, how do we? Can you just stress to our audience just the importance of China's digital Silk Road? It is very close to the United States.
It's on our doorstep. They're trying to undersell us everywhere in the world, and of course, they do so at a huge cost. Because of course, if countries go all in on the China model, number one is they're compromising security, and number two is they're compromising values. And so the United States is going to have to get, I think, a lot more aggressive, frankly, at promoting our own technology globally. It's, as you mentioned, right here in our own hemisphere. It's in Latin America. It's across Africa. It's actually also in Europe. I mean, the European Commission, the European Union has been wanting to try to do deals with China, and I think that's a huge issue, and I think it's a big problem. I think we need to strengthen our alliances and really get more aggressive promoting U.S. tech globally.
Very quickly, final question. Are you confident that Europe's going to start getting back to the American playbook in terms of dealing with China on tech?
Look, I think they have, in the Biden administration, a very willing partner to strengthen U.S. European transatlantic ties. But honestly, there's a big tech lash going on in Europe that I think if the United States doesn't speak up against, it could cause Europe to fall into the hands of China in this techno race, and we gotta be vigilant about this, Kevin. I'm pretty concerned about it.
All right, I asked Senator Marsha Blackburn the same question because she's from Tennessee, Nashville, country music. I do know that you are an acoustic guitar fan. Who's your favorite country music artist?
Oh God. I'm not a huge country music fan, but I love all kinds of things, and I've been playing for my kids this year as we've been home for COVID, and we do all kinds of folk music, everything under the sun.
I love it. All right, thank you very much to Jeremy Bash. He, of course, is the former chief of staff for the CIA as well as the Pentagon.